James J.T. Thomas was a dedicated member of the 1970s Pittsburgh Steeler dynasty. His on-the-field commitment led him and the Pittsburgh Steelers to 4 Super Bowls and all-pro athlete status.
J.T. was a fierce competitor. He was a great athlete. He worked hard and smart athlete.
J.T. has now transferred his on-the-field commitment to his community, mentoring African-American men to be successful in their lives.
Football is a chess game. When you're analyzing opponents constantly, you're anticipating.
As a professional athlete and mentor, what have you learned that you teach young African-American men?
What sports does is this. Sports take away all the idiosyncrasies of life because it allows you to see who the person really is, whether you want to or not. And all of a sudden, it takes you into what I call the 95% rule of life, where 95% of what we're all about is the same. We can find harmony in that. We can find unity in that. We can find one accord in that 95%.
Pastor Mark Tooks, executive pastor of Macedonia Baptist Church and mentee of J.T. Thomas, talks about how he uses the tools he learned from J.T. in his work in the church and his community.
We have a men's fraternity, and part of men's fraternity is helping men to grow in areas of their lives. J.T. taught one of them classes to about, I think it was about 6 or 7 young men, you know what I mean, helping them to map out areas in their lives so that they can be more productive.
I spoke with All-Pro defensive end Elsie Greenwood, friend and former teammate of J.T. Thomas, to talk about J.T.'s work in the community.
He's really involved in his church and his music. You know, J.T. is a musician, as you well know, and he has a couple choirs at his church, and he works with the kids choir, and he's heavily involved in his church and church organizations.
As a mentor and role model, J.T. has seen the crucial state of African-American men and hopes that through mentoring, he can help young men find the true meaning of a successful life.
We're in a war too, it's a different war, and look at ourselves, how do we relate in terms of hope in our wars? And I think we have to translate this war here being attacked. We're being attacked too. So think of the attack in America right now, in the economy, in the United States, the wars in the world, but in our neighborhoods.
J.T. believes that all of humanity holds 95% in common. However, we can only discover that 95% of human commonality by first discovering ourselves as individuals. And we can only discover ourselves as individuals by first discovering God.
So what young men really need, especially young African American men, what they need to do now is to be able to look at people and see that 95%.
Yeah, but I think you have to know who you are. Mm-hmm. Okay, and I was told that in order to know who you are, since you're intricately related to God, you have to find out who God is. Unless you know who God is, you will never know who you really are. And I found out African American men probably need to know who God is. I think one of the things that I've seen is the loss of a godly life, or having a spiritual presence in one's life to give directions. We've lost that. I've seen that over the years, and a lot of it came by through access, through desegregation, integration. Integration had a lot of positive things for African American men, but also I think we lost a lot. You know, because we got caught up into the American dream, and even in the civil rights movement, there are a lot of people that got caught up into getting into the system. And once they got into the system, you know, they came kind of like the Babylonian. They act more like the Babylonians than the Babylonian. So you become captured in Babylon. And I think that's what's happened. We forgot why when we came into the systems to. I think integration was initially to make us better, equality of life, and really more or less to enhance who we were, not to lose our identity. I think integration, African American, we lost who we were. We lost that core value that we had prior to. And as you see, we become marginalized, and people may disagree, but you look at where we are in society economically. You look at us in terms of the criminal justice system. You know, there are a lot of disproportionate numbers out there from education. You ask yourself why. You know, what has happened to the black man? You know, and also that affects the generation in terms of we have so many families that are in the African American community that are led by women. You know, you go to black church. If you want a great census, you go to most black church on Sunday morning. 75% of the population are women. So where are the men? You know, so I think we've lost a lot in this process, and I think we can't blame the system. We can't blame racism. I think we have to blame the fact that we have lost touch with who we are, and also lost touch with that what has brought us and actually sustained us, which is a relationship with God.
This is Pittsburgh's 2012 game changer, James Robertson, reporting.